Thank you so much for meeting with me and allowing me to come into your classroom yesterday.
Anytime.
So our focus that we decided on our teacher interview was that we were going to work on managing response rates and seeing how students in your class responded when you asked a question in whole group reading. So I'm going to kind of go over our lesson and go over our data that I collected, and then we'll kind of talk about trends and things. So the lesson that I saw yesterday was whole group reading. Like I said, you were talking about determining the meaning of unknown words. You had a passage and questions. The lesson was about 30 minutes, and you have 16 students in your class that were there yesterday. So the data that I collected, I basically made a key for the response rates. So the different ones that I saw in the class, this is obviously probably not everything you do, but this is just what I saw yesterday. So I saw choral response, raised hand, and that would also be just if you called on a kid like randomly out of the blue. A randomizer means that it's like a planned, like popsicle sticks or like a random spinner. Movement would be like thumbs up, thumbs down, or hands, and then W was written answer on a whiteboard, so them responding through writing. So basically what I did is I have all of your kids' names here. I have how they responded and the number of times they responded. So right off the bat during your lesson, I gave everybody, since you asked 3 multiple choice questions during it, everybody responded, and I put, so everybody has a W on there. So that was kind of right off the bat, everyone was answering all of those, okay? So what I'm gonna have you do is you look at it, and you kind of already previously looked at it. What trends do you kind of notice in there?
Well, I noticed that I did not use the randomizer very much.
Why do you think you didn't use the randomizer? Just using a random way to call on them.
I don't know.
So
just
like,
because I see their hands, it's a lot easier for me to just see their hands and call on them than to use popsicles, and I have to consciously think about it when I do it.
Right, and time too.
Yes, time definitely, because it does take more time to pull a name and.
What about for who you called on? Like the ones that have, because the ones that just have W's next to their name, that means that they never answered verbally during the lesson. So what about the ones that you did call on? Was there a reason?
Probably because some of them, behavior-wise, I know that some of them do not participate. So if I see them participating, I want to encourage that more. So I'll try to call on them more. But then after looking at this, I'm realizing that then I'm not calling on everybody,
right? Which
I would rather call on everybody than just those students over and over again.
Right. There was 6 that never verbally responded, and then like for example, JJ, he had the most out of everyone. So why does JJ have the most responses?
He's one of my behaviors, and he doesn't usually respond. He's not one to normally raise his hand. So I would call on him more when he raised his hand, and then of course when I did use the randomizer, of course his name was the one that was pulled.
Right, always.
So he got called on more than anyone else.
And then so on this, I kind of took, so you asked a total number of questions was 29 that you asked throughout the entire 30-minute lesson. What? Compare that to how long the lesson was.
So question a minute, pretty much.
A lot of questions, and then so how many choral responses did you have?
I had 16 choral responses.
Which was the most out of all of them. And you kind of just mentioned that. Why do you think you have so much choral response?
Because I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of repetitive things. So, especially like giving directions, or we do like process of elimination, so going over those directions. And it's kind of like they already know what I'm going to say. So it's to get them into the habit of it. Right. So more repetitive.
Yeah.
So instead of calling on one person for that, I do choral response for those kinds of questions.
Right. Because for you asked 3 multiple choice questions, and for every single A, B, C, D, there was a choral response for each one of them. So that was like a good chunk of those choral responses.
Right.
And then what about the one that was the movement that shows response? Do you remember what that was? It was when they had to raise their hand. They were looking for, you said, who find where the like the certain word was in there and then you did the raised hand. Do you think that that movement was effective or not effective just in your when you're normally teaching, when they use movement?
I would say normally movement is effective. In that case, it wasn't. I don't think that was the best use of movement. Usually, like, I'll do thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay.
I don't usually have them raise their hands. So I'm not sure really why I did that, to be honest with you. I think normally I have a very active bunch, so any kind of movement they like
helps them. Yeah.
Yes.
So based on the data, which strategy do you think is the most effective when you're doing a whole group lesson?
The most effective?
So which one's keeping them the most engaged?
I would say, as far as like behavior wise and making sure they're all answering, the written answer on the whiteboard is the most effective because they like whiteboards and they all answer it.
Yeah, it was 100% participation there. Every single person had an answer, and like I checked that they actually had an answer and they all did.
So they like doing the whiteboards. The movement, I think that if I got better at it, I'm just nervous for, again, behaviors, just making sure.
It's a huge part in your class.
Because them moving around, it works for about 5 minutes, and then it kind of starts to cause mass chaos. So they need like more strict. So maybe just getting even better at directions with that.
Right.
Would help.
One thing, like when they were answering on their whiteboard, and like they all had the same answer, you know, they all had the correct answer on there, and then you said you did the core response like process of elimination, which I think worked well, but you could always vary it, like for one of them do that, and then for the next one say, all right, well, how did you get B?
Right.
And then a kid answers, and then everyone can give, do you agree or disagree with their answer? And then if they disagree, talk about it with
like
their...
a different one for each
one. Because, I mean, you had a ton of core responses, which isn't a negative thing. It was just, like, 12 of them were from your question saying, A, is it right? No. B, is it right? No. C, is it right? Yes. That kind of thing. If you were going to do this lesson again, or, like, a different whole group lesson that was somewhat similar, what's one thing that you might change?
I would probably do less choral responses and try to do more like you said, like changing it up, so for each question doing something different, because I think that would keep them engaged more too.
Awesome. I think those are two great strategies, and I mean some things work for a while and then you always have to change it up. That's just great classroom management. So we talked all about response rates, and our focus was how students are responding to the questions, and we got a really great kind of observation of them. One thing that I would like to do in the future would be to do a seating chart of them and see, are the kids that are in the front answering the ones that are in the back? Because I even noticed during your lesson, you call on like just whole tables a lot. Like, oh, table 3, I can see you're, looking back in the text, that kind of thing. To see where the certain kids that are sitting, how they're responding, or even like how quickly they're responding. So that's one thing that I would like to come back and do. Do you feel like you want to keep working on response rates like this, or would you prefer to move on to something else in the classroom, like whole group reading or in small group?
I think small group.
Small group?
Yes.
Okay, definitely. I think that would be a great place to continue on. Tell me something you're proud of in your whole lesson you did yesterday. That's something you thought you did well.
That they were all participating on the whiteboards. I think that went well.
Yeah.
Nobody was drawing on it or anything. Like, they were actually working. And I think that they were all engaged.
Definitely.
Is good.
I loved the thinking and inking. I think that was, and the partner pyramid too. I mean, I loved how they collaborated and they knew the expectations, and they were doing awesome with it. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Casey.